have few regrets for what I've done. It was that in 2 occasions, I felt after 60 minutes and after 85 minutes in 2 games to change the keeper in that moment. And I didn't do it. I didn't have the courage to do it.
Well, those words by Mikel Arteta sent pretty much every single person in the Goalkeepers Union and football traditionalists into a tailspin. I'm Sebastian North. This is Campfire Football. So here we're going to break down the Aaron Ramsdale, David Raya situation at Arsenal, where they've got 2 number 1 goalkeepers, and pretty much everyone is like, what's going on here? Well, in August of 2021, Arteta decided, I need someone to really challenge Bernd Leno. And a lot of people were very surprised that Arteta went for Aaron Ramsdale. I mean, he had been twice relegated, once with Bournemouth, then with Sheffield United, and though he'd impressed in both seasons, you kind of expect that he would go to a mid-table club or maybe one that was trying to get into the European places. But a team that was looking to challenge for the title and rebuild to the Champions League, Aaron Ramsdale seemed kind of like a weird choice. Here's what Peter Schmeichel had to say about it.
I didn't see this happening when he signed from Sheffield United. I honestly didn't understand why Arsenal was spending that much money on Ramsdale, because I didn't see it. But what he's done is he's won me over. I think he's a very, very consistent, stable goalkeeper. He makes very, very few mistakes. The actual goalkeeping, he's done that fantastic. But why he surprised me is how he plays with his feet and his distribution, taking part in play. I just don't get why Arteta wants to create this problem.
Everyone saw Aaron Ramsdale as a very good shot stopper, good reaction saves, but would he really be as good with his feet as you need at the top level for teams that want to build out the way Arsenal do? And he's done a fantastic job. So you would have thought the goalkeeper situation at Arsenal was totally solved. Their backup was Matt Turner last year, who I'm sure was very, very happy to just go from the MLS to the Premier League. But he was a backup, and if he wanted to keep his spot with the U.S. national team, he probably needed to get some minutes. So Matt Turner moved on to Nottingham Forest, got the starting job there. I'm sure Greg Berhalter is happy his number 1 is actually playing. Think about Zach Steffen, who was just a bench player at Man City. So Arsenal needed another backup goalie. And who'd they go get? David Raya from Brentford. Now, David Raya is not brought in to be a number 2. You wouldn't do the deal that Arsenal did for that, which, by the way, is an interesting deal. Arsenal paid a £3 million loan fee for this season and then have an optional £27 million buyout option. But the reality is he actually signed a 2-year extension at Brentford before going on loan to Arsenal. Here are the quotes by Brentford football director Phil Giles on the structure of the deal. He said, I'm sure the first question all Brentford fans will ask is why this transfer has been structured as an initial loan with Arsenal having the option to make it permanent in the future. The answer to that is simply that it enables this deal to be done more rapidly between both clubs, with all parties wanting to make this permanent transfer as soon as practically possible, whenever that might be. David's contract extension is a fallback position in the event that the transfer is not made permanent. So unless David Raya gets injured or massively underperforms and Arsenal decide we want nothing to do with this deal, it's meant to be done next summer. So then immediately everyone kind of wondered, well, did you just bring in a guy for $30 million basically while you already have a starting goalkeeper who, by the way, what's he even done wrong to be replaced? So what does Arteta have to say about this? And this is when he delivered this incredible quote that pretty much sent everyone in a tailspin and the goalkeeping union's heads exploding.
I cannot have 2 players in his position and don't play them, and David has tremendous qualities like Aaron has, like Carl has, but we have to use them. And I have few regrets for what I've done. One of them, it was that in 2 occasions, I felt after 60 minutes and after 85 minutes in 2 games in this period to change the keeper in that moment. And I didn't do it. I didn't have the courage to do it. And someone is going to do it. And maybe it's, that's strange. Why? Why not? Tell me why not. You have all the qualities in another goalkeeper to do something. Something is happening. You want to change momentum. Do it.
Absolutely fascinating. Something we have never heard before. And actually, Sky Sports, they asked a question that I want to know the answer to as well.
I'd be fascinated to know the 2 games he was talking about there.
Now, Aaron Ramsdale starts the first 2 Premier League games of the season, but then David Raya takes his place against Everton, and then again in the Champions League against PSV Eindhoven, and then again in the North London derby against Spurs. These are big games for Aaron Ramsdale to miss out on. And you got to be thinking for him, the writing's on the wall. I mean, you have been replaced. Rob Green said it exactly like this.
You don't get rested as goalkeeper, you get dropped. Now, if you're going into games, and massive games like this, as David Raya is saying, well, the other guy just got dropped for not doing anything wrong, then what have I got to do to stay in the team? So it does provide these series of questions for the guys in goal. So it'll be interesting to see how David Raya does tonight. He'll be under pressure.
When are goalkeepers not under pressure? But let's move on to what Peter Schmeichel had to say about the whole thing.
See, I don't get it. I don't understand why you want to create a competition situation for goalkeepers. The one thing you want from your goalkeeper is stability. So goalkeepers are playing a position which is very reactive. There's no proactive action happening. You can't be proactive and go out and, create a save for yourself. So what you want your goalkeeper to be is stable. Do the job he's there to do, stop the ball from going in the net. Now, if you're in a competition situation, well, at some point, you are going to think, I have to prove that I'm a better goalkeeper than the other one, and therefore I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. And if you go and try things as a goalkeeper, very often it goes wrong, and that's the one thing you don't want. I don't get this. I think it's crazy, and I think Arteta might just be creating a problem that he didn't need going forward.
Now, this is a legendary goalkeeper, if you're not aware, Peter Schmeichel. He makes some really interesting points here, that you don't want your goalkeeper to feel like he needs to massively prove himself and go and do things that he shouldn't be doing, like running off his line to clear a ball when there was no need to, or coming out for every cross, even though some of them you should probably just stay at home. And it is unlike any other position on the field, because if you are a right back or a center back, you can do proactive things to make yourself look better. As a goalkeeper, just don't make big mistakes. What's also interesting is the discussion about a number one and a number two, and how the number two is there to make the number one feel better, more comfortable, and more stable in their position. And that competition is not something you want to bring into the goalkeeping realm. This is how it's worked for eons. And it seems that Arteta has a very specific plan here of how he wants to deal with this, one that is genuinely baffling all these ex-pros, especially the ex-goalkeepers. Here's something Saga Hislop had to say about the whole thing.
No goalkeeper wants to play a game thinking that one mistake is going to cost them their place. That causes goalkeepers to retreat into a little bit of a shell, not take chances, and that is the worst thing that you can ask for any football.
Shaka makes a very interesting point, sort of in relation to Schmeichel's, about how you don't want a goalkeeper going out and making things happen. You also don't want your goalkeeper being so worried that they might make a mistake that they don't take necessary risks. If you have a goalkeeper who is terrified, well, take a look at what Kepa was like when he was under pressure. It was really, really bad. And one of the major problems that a lot of these guys have is you have to pick one. Here's Shaka talking about that.
As I've said from day one, from the time Arsenal signed David Raya, that I felt that Mikel Arteta needs to say who's his number one. And having both goalkeepers kind of unsure of their own position within the team, unsure as to whether they start on the weekend or not, I don't think does either any good. I didn't think that Aaron Ramsdale did anything to deserve getting dropped, but those decisions aren't mine to make. Whatever Mikel Arteta decides, David Raya, Aaron Ramsdale, pick one.
Pick one, right? Doesn't matter who, pick one, because right now it's not helping either of them. But are we really meant to believe that all the number twos out there are just happy being number twos? Obviously not. You would imagine a lot of these guys would love to get more minutes, would love to get more opportunities.
There is an art to being number two goalkeeper in a football club, and that is a special person that needs to support the number one and makes that number one comfortable in his position.
The number one needs to be fully concrete on the fact that he is going to play, and that's the only way that they will be psychologically, mentally ready for the game. The number two goalkeeper has to pretty much put out this vibe that I am doing everything for you so that you can play because the team is going to operate better with you in goal. Now, the reason why I think this is strange is this is two goalkeepers with completely different mental preparation for every game. And what are the results that they're both supposed to produce? Not getting scored on, not making mistakes. It's kind of funny. You're thinking to yourself, the number one goalkeepers out there are really corralling their spot here. I wonder, if we asked all the number twos around the world, would you prefer to be in a competitive meritocracy of a training environment where if you do better, you get to play, rather than being the second spot in case of disaster? Look, I think it's worth considering. What do the second and third goalkeepers think of this new idea Mikel Arteta has? Maybe they would love it. So then the question really becomes, why do goalkeepers need to be treated so differently? Here's what Thierry Henry had to say about it.
People have to stop with that goalkeeper thing. When you play at a big club, competition will happen. And second of all, when you play as a striker and they go and get one of the best strikers in the world to compete with you, does a striker cry because I won't feel comfortable because there is another guy that can take my position at halftime or after an hour? I can tell you as a striker, it's not easy to go on the field knowing that if you miss, you have an hour, someone will come.
What you heard from Rob Green earlier and what you heard from Peter Schmeichel and Saga Hislop is basically that these goalkeepers are feeling on a knife edge, that if they make one mistake, they could lose their place. Well, Thierry Henry is basically saying for forwards, it's no different. When a club brings in a big-time striker, if you don't score by halftime or 60 minutes or you miss a big chance, you are going to be replaced. And if that guy comes on and scores, there's a good chance he's starting the next week. So the competition at big clubs is kind of necessary for every position. Why not for goalkeepers?
You have the confidence already in the way the atmosphere within the squad, that they will accept competition, and it drives them on. I mean, is that a gamble you have to take?
It's not a gamble, it's a necessity. There is no another way. Because when we were here last season saying, but the difference between tier 1 and what you call tier 2 players is too big. Yeah, then how do you resolve it? But we have to create that environment. It's not a competition. It's to raise the level and the demands that we're going to be facing.
And I think this is something that a lot of people are going to have to start getting their minds around. The fact that this is a new way of thinking. This is a young manager who is looking at this and going, why not? Why can't I have two guys who I really consider my number ones and have them compete with each other? Because competition is how we make the whole squad better. If Aaron Ramsdale decides, I can't really do it, David Raya is ahead of me, I just can't seem to get ahead of him, well then Ramsdale can leave, and most likely Arteta will bring in someone to push Raya that one step further. This is how you grow the competitive mindset. Iron sharpens iron. He's trying to build a team that can win the Premier League. Honestly, this is just so fascinating. I am dying to see Mikel Arteta make a goalkeeping change at some point in the second half of a match that has nothing to do with injury, nothing to do with form. It is a purely tactical way to deal with the rest of a match. If we see that, it's the cat out of the bag, and we might see it happen a lot more. Obviously, guys like Saga, Peter Schmeichel, Rob Green, they have their own opinions, which come from their own time. And I'm not saying that they're invalid. But I am saying football changes, things move on, and maybe this is a new trend that we're going to be seeing in the game. I'm all for it. It's a shakeup. Could be really fun. We'll see how this whole thing pans out over the course of the season. I'm Sebastian North. This is Campfire Football.